So today I'm going to decide to unconditionally love myself. Today I unconditionally love myself. Will you say that with me? Today I unconditionally love myself. Now for some of us this is a radical thought. Why? Because many of us for most of our lives have given ourselves away in a way that's not healthy for us. We haven't learned to break those old habits and those old agreements that we have with ourselves. But today is about that very thing, breaking with the past of our old agreements and moving into new agreements that are life-giving for ourselves and even those around us, right? Because we know when we're turned on, when we're tuned in, tuned on, right, what do we know? That our light starts to spread and bless those around us. And that's a good thing. Amen? All right, so today we're on I think it's week 4 of the fifth agreement, the book, The Fifth Agreement. And we're going to start with the idea that practice makes the master. Will you say that with me? Practice makes the master. Practice makes the master. What does that mean? That means that anything you've ever done, you've done well because you practiced it over and over and over. For instance, who in this room has ever learned a language? Raise your hand. And did you do that like quickly, like you just, it take time, right? You just skipped right over it. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Well, don't you think, what about these great musicians up here? Do you think they just rolled out of bed this morning and, maybe bought a bass yesterday and decided to come in today and, play around? No, there's some practice went into what they do. And I told Rick, I didn't get to tell the other band members yet, but last night and this morning in my meditation, I was really practicing this idea of, and it's not new to me, but I love it, of just sending love to the people that are going to support the service and just to people that I care about and that I admire. And I was just thinking of them last night. It was like I couldn't help but think of them. They came into my mind, and I was sitting there meditating, and I was just sending love, sending love. Then I dreamed about them all night, and then I meditated again this morning and just send them love, send them love. And I was thinking as I got here, I thought, oh, I know why. Because practice makes the master. They're showing us the mastery each Sunday. Shelley over here on piano was showing us a mastery on piano. His wife, Sharon, in a little bit will show us a different mastery. So anything that you want to get good at, you have to practice. So when we're talking about these 4 agreements so far, we haven't got to the 5th, and the 5th is awesome. But the first 3 we've talked about. Who can tell me the first one? Be what? Impeccable with what? Be impeccable with your word. Number 2 is what? You weren't too sure. No. That was funny. I just don't. Just don't. Something. I just don't something. I don't remember what. I know it's don't. Don't take anything personally. Say that with me. Don't take anything personally. Did anybody try that this week? Oh, yeah. Did you try about being impeccable with your word, too? Was it harder than it sounded like when I talked about it? Yeah, that whole human aspect came in, right? And it's like, wow, I thought I was impeccable with my word. And what's the third one? What? Don't make what? Don't make any assumptions. Any. Boy, and we talked about last week that, being impeccable with your word is having your actions and your words match, right? And never using your word to take down or harm others or yourself. Don't take anything personally really helps us in our interpersonal communications, right? And several people in the line last service said, oh, I was able to try that don't take personally thing, and boy, did that help. Boy, did that help. Also, if many of you get the spiritual message, and if you don't, you can sign up at the ambassador table today with a welcome sign right after service. I want to encourage you to do it, because sometimes I talk a little bit midweek. It might expand on or add something that from the message the previous Sunday or the one coming. But because somebody asked me after last week, if I don't take anything personally, does that mean everything somebody says to me is a story? And I said, no, it doesn't. It doesn't, because you know what? There comes a time where there are places in us that are healed, and we're hearing reality for what it really is. So that's also true, right? I didn't say that really last week, but we want to come from a healed place so that what we're hearing is really what's really happening. So sometimes as we're looking at this and speaking into some of this, the nuances are missed. So hear me that yes, if somebody's telling us what to do and this and that, probably it's a story. But even I said last week, even in any story, there's probably a kernel that there might be something in it for you to work on. Remember when I said that? So when we're hearing somebody else's story, remember, we may be hearing it for what it really is, and what reality really is, and that's okay. But we don't want to get in the habit, and this was the idea, the point last week, we don't want to get in the habit of judging somebody else's process, judging somebody else's soul path. That's not ours to do. Believe you me, it's not ours to do. And as soon as we start doing it, we're missing out on our own journey and our own path, right? We're giving our energy away. So I wanted to say that about that. Don't take anything personally. And then don't make any assumptions. That helps us with ourselves. And also us being healthy, right? That we would never say bad things about ourselves or about others if we're not making any assumptions. It's really important, very important to remember that. So today, even though it's the fourth agreement, which is, does anybody know the fourth agreement off the top of your head? Always do your best. Did he already give it to you up there? No, he did. Oh, you. All right. Always do your best. Right. That's actually not point one, though. Point one is really this. If you were taking notes, point one would be, practice makes the master. Say that with me together. Practice makes the master. And I'm going to tell you, I have had respect for many individuals over my life. And I was going back and thinking about it. Almost every person that I really respect is a master in some form or another of what of an area of their life or of their life even. And then I was thinking back to this old movie I saw. It was called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and it was based on the book by Dan Millman. That's a great movie about the spiritual path. If you haven't seen it, and you should see it, maybe see it again. It's a great movie. You know, maybe where I think about bringing Dan Millman here, I bet he would come. That would be cool, right? Maybe we should think about that. But there's this line in that movie, and you remember in the movie his spiritual teacher is who? Who's the actor? Nick Nolte, yeah. He calls him Socrates, but it's Nick Nolte, right? And there's a part in it where, you know, the young man who's playing basically the Dan Millman character says he practices gymnastics. And then Nick Nolte, as a spiritual teacher, as Socrates, says, that's the difference between me and you. You practice gymnastics. I practice everything. And that's the statement of a master. In other words, his food was beautifully prepared. He took care of his body. He had his time of prayer and meditation. Right? He cared about what was happening around him, enough to mentor a student. So everything in life was a practice. That's called living mindfully. Right? That's living mindfully, where everything that we're doing is a sacred act and a sacred practice. You know, right now, and really that's my goal. My goal is to have my whole life be a practice. In every area I'm working on something. Sometimes I work a little too hard and I just need to learn to rest. That's one of the things I'm learning. But the thing I'm working on right now and have been, as a matter of fact, somebody said to me recently, you know, are you still doing those voice lessons? Oh, yes, I said. Well, how long do you plan on doing it? I said, probably for the rest of my life. Really? I said, well, it's my craft. This is my craft. I'm not doing it to sing a solo for you, although I might do that sometime. I'm doing it because it's mine to do, because that's my work in this world, is to learn to use my voice, to free my soul, and to help others free theirs. That's my work. That's my medicine. Right? So that's my craft. That's the thing I'm going to keep practicing so that I can become a master. Because here's what I found. As I'm working on this one area, it affects all the other areas of my life. Right? Practice makes the master. Together? Practice makes the master. Practice makes the master. Anybody who's ever been good at anything practiced. You know, remember a few weeks ago we saw that interview with Maya Angelou? And there were so many great things in that interview with her and with Dr. Angelou and Oprah. But the thing that touched me the most, I said, you know, didn't Dr. Angelou in that interview say her mentor and voice coach? I'd never thought. I said, even Maya Angelou has a voice coach. How cool is that? Right? So it's nothing less for me to have a voice coach. It's wonderful. I get expanded. Practice makes the master. One more time together. Practice makes the master. Practice makes the master. That's an important lesson to learn in life. All right. Always do your best is point 2. If you were taking notes on that paper that we hand you when you come in, so you don't even have to bring a notebook, that would be number 2. Always do your best. Together? Always do your best. You know, I heard this statement growing up that was, honey, if he knew better, he'd do better. Has anybody heard that? Honey, if he knew better, he'd do better. You know, when I was saying, why did they do that? Or why did you say, honey, if he knew better, he'd do better. And it's a fact that as we go through life and as we grow and expand in consciousness, as we live from our soul, we're at different places in consciousness as we learn and grow. So our best yesterday is different than our best today. Our best when we're sick is different than our best today. But the good news is, as you're always striving to do your best always gets better. My best always gets better. Will you say that with me? My best always gets better, right? So wherever I was, you know, a year ago, today I know I'm better. I know that with the work I'm doing with my vocal coach. My low will never be as low as it used to be, right? It's come up. It's come up. So even if I'm listening, I say, oh, too bad I didn't get that. You know, it's all right because I did my best, and that's all good, and I acknowledge myself for that, right? And I'm not where I was yesterday, so that's progress. Always do your best. Today, I always do my best. Together? Today, I always do my best. Now, this agreement, number 4, makes the first 3 active, right? Because you can say the first 3, and they're sweet and lovely and a good idea, probably you'd say. Yeah, that's a good idea. I even wrote them down at one point. But if you don't practice the first 3, right? So always do your best is the action step. Go do it, right? The idea is that you practice the first 3 over and over and over and over, and that's doing your best. That's continuing to come back to center to when a situation happens. If you don't do it perfectly, guess what? You get to forgive yourself, start all over on the agreements again, right? Because these are really an important part of the spiritual practice. And I want to read a Bible verse to you. This is from, I don't know if you came in early. I forgot to mention, by the way, if you came in early, there were some great pictures from my recent visit to Unity Village. I hope you saw some of those. And there are also a few verses, and this is one of them. This is from Galatians 6, verse 9, and it says this. So let us not grow weary in doing what is right, for we will reap at harvest time if we do not give up. Let's hear it one more time. So let us not grow weary in doing what is right, for we will reap at harvest time if we do not give up. In other words, stick to it. The one thing I was born with is determination. I can't help myself, right? I'm going to stick to it till it's done. It's the good news and the bad news maybe of my personality, but it's determination. I'm going to stick to it until it's done. My mom used to call it stick-to-itiveness. Have you heard that? Right. So that's the idea in the spiritual practice. You don't stop until you start to see the results. Right? I know many people in this room right now have health issues. We've all got some issue we're working with. Well, what you do is you work it from every single side, right? You work it from the spiritual side. You work it from the physical side, right? You work it by, you call your friends and you say, hey man, I need some help right now. You pray with a prayer chaplain. You go to the right doctor. You find the right medicine. If that one doesn't work, you try another way, right? You stick to it and you're determined to see healing in your life in some form or another, right? Right? So that's really what always do your best is about. I'm determined to have my best show up. In other words, I want to live from my authentic self. See, if you work the first 3 agreements, what happens is you break thousands of little agreements that you've held for many, many years. And then you get to live for more freedom. Life gets to be easier. If you're not believing all the stories told about you, you just get to live from your soul. Isn't that wonderful news? To me, that's great news. Great news. So always do my best is really the action step of the first 3. Always do your best. Always do your best. I want to read you 2 things. One is a quote from the book. This is from the 5th agreement, and it's on page 85. It's on page 85, and it says this. Very soon what you agree to believe will become the choice of your authentic self, not the choice of the image of yourself that you thought you were. Isn't that good? So, right. So you want your choices that you make to be your dream of heaven, right? Now, I want to say a word because many of us, if not all of us in this room, in some way, grew up in some way in the mind. We have really created for ourselves a dream of hell where we can never win, where we're not good enough, and all the things we say about ourselves and everybody else is negative and tears us down. That's the dream of hell. Now, saying the word hell, I want to differentiate us from churches that tend to be very religious. Now, in Unity, I consider us more spiritual than religious. And by that I mean if you are religious, you're scared of going to hell. And if you're spiritual, you've been there and don't want to go back. Right? 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 So really in unity, we're spiritual, not religious. But even though all religions are wonderful. You hear me saying that? Okay. Right? So if you know your mind is going to work real hard to create a dream anyway, why not create a dream of heaven instead? Right? That you have the power to choose. The number one most important thing in all of this work is awareness. And that's what the first 3 agreements are about. But awareness on its own will not change anything. You have to take action steps. You can be aware and then, I've heard people say you can't go backwards. I don't know about that. Because you can start to see where's an area you need to work on. You can go, I ain't going there. You see what I mean? Action is required. A move forward is required on your part. Right? People all the time come to me about financial stuff. I guess I'm kind of known in the Unity movement. I didn't really realize it, but it happened at conference. More people were, asking questions about prosperity things. And it's so interesting. People always want to change their financial situation, but they don't want to do anything about it. They don't want to change one thing. And I say, well, how's the tithing going? Oh, yeah, well, I say, well, that's not all, but that's like a baby step. By the way, in August, we're going to be doing a class I'm writing called Prosperity for You. And I'm really excited about it. But nobody wants to make any change. And I'm saying, if you're not willing to change, guess what? Nothing is going to change. Right? You think you can say a thought or a different affirmation one time and it's over. And I'm saying, no. You have to make concerted effort to change. And sometimes we feel like we're like pecking away, right? Pecking away to open the egg. Don't we feel like that sometimes? It's like, let me read you this reading. This is amazing to me this morning as I was having my little, my meditation. And it's so funny because many of you know I moved into a new house and it's still kind of chaotic. Has anybody moved lately and just had stuff everywhere? In this one room I'm meditating in, I have no idea why. There's coat hangers on the bed. There's, boxes over here. The closet shelf just fell in. It's just weird. But the energy is good in there. I can't help myself. And so even though there's stuff everywhere, I found I created this little tiny place on the bed where I can sit and meditate. And I was sitting there, I was sending love and energy to Steve and Rick and the singers, everybody. So I'm doing all this, and then I open my reading, and this is a reading I've done for many years. Probably 15 years, and I go off and on, with reading it, but I've been reading it every day again, and it's called A Cherokee Feast of Days. And anyway, it's a beautiful reading, and it's very interesting. Sometimes I'll read it with the Daily Word, and it's often on the same topic, but with two totally two totally different takes, but not in competition with one another. But this one deepens what the Daily Word reading is. So I want to say I recommend it, but it's very hard to get. We've tried to get them in our bookstore, and the last 2 we got sold immediately. But I wanted to read you the reading for today because it was today's reading on the very topic I'm speaking on. And there's a Cherokee word in here. So if you're saying, what is that? It's a Cherokee word, and then it's in English. So today for June 22nd, it says this. Like the Sisiqua, the baby bird, we are sometimes held inside a firm shell with the job of pecking our way to freedom. Weak as gelatin and with no one to help, we begin freeing ourselves. 1 or 2 tries shows very little progress, except maybe we are a little stronger, and then with more pecking, we begin to gain strength and determination. Is it not what we are supposed to do? Can we get strong with no effort? 1 or 2 more pecks and the shell cracks a little. But oh, it seems great. No one lifts us out and we are wobbly. But the mere act of standing up, here's my favorite line, listen. But the mere act of standing up gives us something to sing about. Great. Great. That's what we want to get to in our soul. Something to sing about. So for me, this book and the 5th agreement, and all my spiritual work is really about this, freeing my soul to do what it was here to do. Right? We're finding ourselves once again. Right? We're finding ourselves once again and beginning to live from our authentic self. And the word I would use is to live from the soul. Right? Today I live from my soul. Will you say that with me? Today I live from my soul. All right. I'm going to always do my best, right? That's the idea. Always do my best. Okay, point 3 is this. Challenge your beliefs. So if we're always doing our best and we're, really practicing those first 3 agreements, something's going to happen. And sometimes you're going to come up against an old belief that you don't know how to unravel on your own, and you might want to reach out for help. I'm going to encourage you to do it. Because even though that reading says we do it alone, in some way that's true, yes. Right? Like we have to choose what we want our life to be. We have to choose we want to live from a personal heaven rather than a personal hell. We have to. And it's only our choice alone. Then the support comes for sure. But I also want you to remember you don't have to do it totally alone in that you do it isolated. Right? We are really in our society quite isolated considering all the connection through Facebook and all that other stuff. In my view, we have very little real connection. Right? So it's important to learn, and this is a belief of your own that I want you to challenge, that you do have to do it totally alone. There's a lot of support for you doing this soul work, and as you start waking up, you'll find out more and more people around you are waking up as well. More and more people around you are ready to support you. One of the beautiful things I've seen in this community, if there's a need, the whole community is around the person saying, what do you need? How can we help? How can we support? I know of several stories just in the last month where someone's received a diagnosis or just hasn't felt well and reached out. And boy, the help has been there tenfold. And they said, I've been overwhelmed. So we do this one well. But if you're new to our community and you don't know, this isn't the kind of unity where you have to pretend you're well all the time. This is a spiritual hospital. You come here because you need help and support, and we're happy and honored to give it to you. When I first came to this church, somebody said, and there's been somebody who'd been here a really long time, and said, sometimes in old school unity, it feels like we have to pretend we're okay when we're not. And I said, I understand. Right? We're very positive in our approach, but what we want to do is also be very real with what's happening. But as we're very real with what's happening, we see that anything is possible. Right? Anything is possible. So what I'm speaking about today is learning to live from our soul. And as we do that, and as we challenge our old beliefs, what happens is the old beliefs begin to unravel. As the old beliefs begin to unravel, we do live from a much freer place, realizing anything is possible for us. Will you say with me, anything is possible for me? Together? Anything is possible for me. I mean, anything. Anything is possible for me. That's wonderful news. The scriptures tell us that. With God, all things are possible to those that believe. All things. All things. So the other belief I'm going to hope that you will challenge and work with is the idea that you've always put someone else first. That you thought you had to be last. And many of us got that growing up in the church. We were supposed to serve to the extreme of losing ourselves. Well, I'm here to tell you, this church is not asking you to lose yourself. We're asking you to find yourself. Right? And as you find yourself, your place of service comes from your giftedness, because you want to serve, because it brings you joy, not because you have to give yourself away till there's no you left. Right? No, that's not the message of this church. This church is about you living from your authentic self. And yes, you serve, but you don't give yourself away to the point of not knowing who you are anymore. We want you to help find who you are and then live from that place. Right? So I want you to really challenge that old belief that you have to give yourself away to receive love. And that's really what it is, right? We think we have to give ourselves away to receive love. But I'm here to tell you that it would really challenge old beliefs if for the first time in your life you put yourself first and began to love yourself unconditionally. That's what putting yourself first means. Not, well, I'm going to put myself first and forget all you. No, that's not loving, is it? No, that's not the idea. And you know what I realized? I couldn't believe I realized this. I said, my gosh, am I going to say this in front of the whole congregation? But I am. Here's what I realized. Some of the ways I gave myself away and tried to change who I was to suit another person's point of view when they didn't even ask me to. It was what I thought they wanted me to do. Can you believe it? Has anybody in this room besides me done it? Please, somebody else raise their hand. I said, why am I teaching them? Is what I was thinking. Wow, I couldn't believe it. That I literally changed myself for other people when they didn't even ask me to. I thought I had to move and change to suit somebody else's point of view. And it's so freeing when you're not living from a place of what others want you to do and be and say. Wow, is that so freeing? Yeah, it's so freeing. And I want that for us. I want it for me even more, and I certainly want it for you and for your soul. I want you to be able to live from a place where you know who you are, and you live from that place with great freedom and great joy. So one of the things he says for us to do in the book, and I love it because it seems every major teaching comes down to the idea of unconditional love. Every spiritual teaching I know. And so what we want to do is begin to work with our authentic self, or deepen our work with our authentic self or with our soul. And we want to begin to send love to that authentic self. When I spoke at Unity of Overland Park, a few weeks ago, is it just 2 weeks ago I was there? And I did a message about the soul. And because people, evidently, it's not widespread in Unity, the way I talk about the soul, even though it's certainly the way our co-founders, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, talked about it. A woman came up to me, and she was probably in her late 70s, and it really shocked me what she said. She said, "Thank you for reminding me I had a soul I had forgotten." Yeah. And I thought, okay, this is very important information for us. I forget how important it is because we talk about it all the time. So I know if there may be people in the room who've never heard that you're a soul, that here we're more interested in your soul than, your outside. Right? What color you are, or what your hair looks like, or how big or small you are, or if you're gay or straight or young or old or whatever. Our concern is that we help you grow your soul. Right? That's good news. So one of the ways we do that is to send love from our authentic self to our authentic self, right? We begin to consciously send love to our soul. And then as we do that, you feel that love expanding, and you feel everybody around you benefits. That's what I want you to understand about when I'm saying put yourself first, it's not you're putting yourself above somebody and leaving everybody out. You're just taking care of yourself so that your soul gets a chance to shine. As I thought about it in relation to my parenting, I'm always thinking of how is my work going to affect my parenting? And the good news is he gets the best benefit. My son is 7 now, and he gets the greatest benefit of my work, I'm sure, because he started where I am, right? He started from whatever level I'm at, and however I grow, he's instantly in it. And so I thought, well, if I put myself first, I was thinking about this, like I'm going to logically think about this. If I put myself first, what am I showing him? Am I being selfish? That's what many of us might have thought, growing up. No, I'm not being selfish. What am I showing him? I'm showing him what? How to have a confident soul. I'm showing him his soul is worth acknowledging and taking time for. Right? Which means my boundaries are better with him, which means his boundaries will be better with other people. It's amazing how that works. So as I do the work of my soul, as I heal my soul, as I live for my soul, as I love myself unconditionally and put myself, meaning, right, the love of myself first, everyone around me benefits. It's amazing. When I've done it the opposite in the past. Right, so it's not a new idea, but it's a great reminder to do it. A great reminder.